So imagine this story, right? A young guy, constantly in the public eye, um, decides to completely step away from all that. Not for like a photo op or anything, but just quietly do some service. And somehow it starts this whole ripple effect of kindness that probably no one saw coming, least of all him. It's the kind of story we're digging into today. It honestly surprised us, maybe challenged a few ideas, and left us thinking.
Yeah, so our source for this deep dive is an account called Barron's Benevolent NYC Soup Kitchen Surprise. It's this really compelling story involving Barron, and it kind of cut through all the usual noise recently, got people talking. And what we want to do today is really unpack this specific account. Look at how a young person tried to be anonymous to make a difference, the connections he made, and maybe the bigger questions it brings up about giving back.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here, I think, beyond just the story itself, is how this lets us explore empathy and anonymous giving, especially, when it's from someone you might not expect. It kind of challenges our usual thinking about like philanthropy and public figures, that we'll be looking at how these simple sort of unscripted moments can create buzz, sure, but also forge these real personal bonds. It makes you think about what real impact actually looks like.
Okay, so let's dive right in. The setting is New York City. Barron's apparently on a break from NYU studies, and he ends up doing something that, well, frankly, you wouldn't really picture for someone like him. And the detail that really hooked me right away was that the source says he deliberately sneaks away from his Secret Service detail to go volunteer. Just like think about that. Someone living under constant watch, every move tracked, and he actively tries to become invisible. To just, slip away from the security of the whole public thing, just to go help out. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's behind seeking that anonymity, that personal drive to contribute completely on his own terms? This is definitely not the usual playbook for, high-profile families.
Oh, absolutely. It's really quite profound when you stop and think about it. Because we live in this age where, every good deed by someone famous seems documented, maybe for PR. This is just the opposite. It strongly suggests a real desire for genuine contribution without anyone watching, where the act itself is the point, not the recognition. And for someone like Barron, growing up under that intense spotlight, maybe this is a way to find some, I don't know, personal connection. Purpose. Outside of that very structured, very public life, it ties right into that idea of intrinsic altruism, doesn't it? Doing good just because it feels right, not for any reward. When you take away the cameras and the press releases, what's left is often, a purer intention. And getting that anonymity, even briefly, allows for a much more, authentic interaction. He's not a figure. He's just a person helping other people. It says a lot about maybe wanting to just be and do.
That's a great point. He really sets the stage for what happens next at the NYC Soup Kitchen. So it gets there, and his help isn't about big, flashy gestures. It's immediately practical. The source points out he used his height, apparently he's quite tall, to reach high shelves. Just like immediate, useful help where it was needed. Simple. But it says a lot about just being present and, functional. But it wasn't just about the physical stuff. The account also talks about how he interacted with people. It mentions his quiet charm when he was talking with homeless veterans. He didn't just, hand out food and move on. He apparently took time to chat, to actually hear their stories. And, just listening like that can be huge, offering dignity, connection, maybe as vital as the meal itself.
Right. And what's really fascinating here is exactly that mix, isn't it? The practical help and the deep personal engagement. It's such a powerful reminder that real help isn't only about, material needs. It's also fundamentally about seeing someone's humanity, validating their story. Psychologically, feeling heard, truly listened to without judgment can combat that sense of isolation that's so common for people experiencing homelessness. It fosters belonging. So yeah, food meets a basic need, absolutely. But listening, that hits those deeper human needs for connection, respect. He wasn't just the tall guy reaching stuff. He was offering both kinds of support. That kind of holistic approach, it suggests a more mature understanding of genuine help. It's beyond just the mechanics of charity. It's about compassion.
Totally. And the story adds another layer. Beyond his own time and effort, the source says Barron used Trump family resources to give more support to the soup kitchen. But here's the key part. Right? Where the anonymity really comes through. He did it without claiming any credit, no photo op with a giant check, just helping. Physically and financially focused on the impact, not the spotlight. Makes you wonder how often that happens unnoticed.
And that ripple effect you mentioned, from the anonymous donation plus his presence, it's quite something. The source says this combination helped turn the kitchen into a viral sensation. Which is interesting, because how does anonymity go viral? Well, it seems it became known later, despite his efforts, not because of them. His presence was noticed, people talked, and then the donation aspect came out. It really shows how one genuine act, done humbly, can spark wider awareness in really unexpected ways. It wasn't just the money, it was a story, this unexpected, quiet kindness that inspired others. An anonymous donation, fundamentally, it removes that giving to get aspect, right? No expectation of public goodwill. So when it does become known, maybe accidentally, its power to inspire is amplified because it wasn't done for praise. It feels more real.
Yeah, that difference between giving for credit versus giving for impact feels so central here. And speaking of things feeling real, here's where it really caught fire online. The moment that kind of cemented the viral status was apparently a hidden camera catching him fist-bumping a grateful diner. Just this simple, candid gesture, totally unscripted, but it gave this like visual, emotional hook that just resonated. It wasn't staged, just pure, spontaneous human connection. And that kind of authenticity, especially from someone in his position, it's gold today.
Oh, absolutely. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, wow, the power of those candid, unscripted moments, it's huge in our media landscape now. We're so soaked in carefully crafted images, planned appearances. So when you see something authentic, a real fist bump, a genuine smile, it just cuts through all that noise. It bypasses our cynicism. It speaks directly to, our shared humanity. That kind of image can become iconic because it shows something universal: gratitude, respect, connection, without the usual baggage of status. It's those uncalculated moments that hit deepest, make us pause.
And the story wraps up with one more really poignant detail. It really highlights these unexpected connections. The account mentions Barron bonding with an elderly immigrant at the soup kitchen. And the common ground they found, apparently it was shared outsider experiences in America. Just picture that. Two people from wildly different worlds, high-profile kid, elderly immigrant, finding connection over feeling like an outsider. That's powerful.
Yeah. And that raises a really important kind of complex question, doesn't it? What does that shared outsider feeling even mean, especially for him? It seems contradictory on the surface. But, for someone who's lived their whole life under a microscope, constantly judged, maybe seen more as a symbol than a person, that feeling of being an outsider, of not quite fitting in, of being watched but not seen, that could be very real, just different from an immigrant's experience. The immigrant might feel it due to culture, language, acceptance struggles. Barron might feel it from the isolation of public life, lack of privacy, the weight of expectations. But finding that shared vulnerability, that's where deep empathy can happen, right across huge divides in background or status. It's sort of an aha moment. It reminds you that beneath all the labels and circumstances, we can all feel similar things: wanting to belong, finding identity, seeking connection. It cuts through assumptions and makes space for real human connection. Feeling like an outsider. Maybe it's more universal than we think.
Wow. Yeah, what a journey this deep dive turned out to be. We've kind of touched on the power of giving anonymously, the real impact of just being present and listening, and these surprising connections that can pop up when we look past the surface. This story really speaks to the idea that maybe the most powerful kindness happens quietly, without fanfare. It definitely challenges us to look a bit deeper, past the easy headlines. So thinking about all this, what really stood out to you in this story? Did anything challenge your assumptions about, I don't know, public figures or charity? What does it make you think about those unexpected moments of kindness in your own life? Maybe when nobody's looking.
Yeah, and maybe that leads to a final thought to just sort of chew on. What does this all mean for us? Think about how these genuine human connections, no matter who starts them, can seriously challenge our biases and just remind us we're all human. This whole story makes you reflect, doesn't it? How might that desire for anonymity and giving change how we see true generosity? Does taking the who out of it, the credit, actually elevate the act itself, make it more potent, more inspiring? And in a world full of, let's be honest, performative acts, how do we even spot real benevolence versus just good PR? Maybe the most impactful kindness really is done just for connection, for compassion. And finding out about it, even by accident, reminds us there are these quieter forces for good out there.